2011. So it's been
Oh.
15 years, but
Alrighty.
Good evening, it's 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, February 11th, and I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls City School District Board of Education. Ms. Stoiko, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Ms. Schaefer?
here.
Ms. White?
Here.
Ms. Zimmerman?
Here.
Thank you. Item B is approval of the agenda. Number one is a motion to approve the agenda. It's recommended the Board of Education approves the agenda of the February 11th, 2026 Board of Education meeting. Action by the Board of Education, adoption of a consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one singular motion. Unless a member of the Board of Education, Treasurer, or Superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately.
So moved.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris? Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmerman?
Aye.
Thank you. Item C is our opening ceremony. Number one is our informational items. This meeting is the meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not a public community meeting, although there are opportunities for public participation. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic found on the meeting agenda, the individual must complete a registration form found inside the attendance notebook by Mr. Harris and present it to the treasurer. Following the introduction of the topic by the board president, followed by board discussion, the individual will be recognized. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic not found on the meeting agenda, they must notify the superintendent and/or board president of the topic no later than 3 business days in advance of the meeting. These individuals may share their comments during the board business portion of the agenda. In both cases, the individual will preface comments by announcement of their name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. All statements should be directed to the board president. No person may address or question board members individually. An unabridged agenda for this meeting can be found on your electronic device at the address shown on the screen. And for your convenience, hard copies of the board agenda may be found on the table by the sign-in book. The next policy committee meeting is Wednesday, February 18th, 2026 at 4:30 p.m. in the Board of Education offices at 405 Talmadge Road. Next finance committee meeting is February 24th, 2026 in the Board of Education offices. And the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education is Wednesday, February 25th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. in the 612 Campus Performing Arts Center Auditorium at 2630 13th Street. Now for our pledge and welcome, Mrs. Schaefer.
Please stand as you're able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. Our vision, Cuyahoga Falls City School District, the hub of our community, committed to a culture of caring. We innovate, we create, we personalize education for all. Our mission, every student, every day, every opportunity.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer. Brings us to item D, presentations. Number one, presentation on open enrollment. I'll turn it over to Dr. Selka.
Thank you. I'm going to pass these down. And Ms. Hausman, can you come here, please? So I don't have to get disruptive, but if you could, members of cabinet and principals there, thank you. I'm probably one short, so I don't think Christine.
Oh.
The one's in the front there.
I think I have it.
Thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
just the same.
Does everyone have? All right. I'm going to introduce, then we're going to probably have you present at the end. So what we've been asked to do here is provide a little bit more explanation relative to open enrollment. And the reason that we arrived here, as a reminder, due to our financial recovery plan, is that the proper term?
Yes.
Okay. We were required by the state to give various reasons as to why, or different things that we would be able to do to close the gap that we had. And if I recall, it was about $3 million that we had to
We're talking about inter-district open enrollment. Like,
Sure. Yes. So meaning those that do not reside in Cuyahoga Falls. Mhm. So one of the strategies, we had a list of things in which we provided to the state that we would explore. And again, we had to have meetings with them. They had to approve our plan moving forward. And so one of the items that we were under consideration was open enrollment, again, different students that do not reside in the city, among many other, a list of many other things. One was the closure of an elementary school. And so we've obviously have concluded that process. So now we're in another phase here looking at our open enrollment. So if you recall, we had a previous presentation, some information provided to you. The one that I just want to share with you this evening is relative really to savings, because that is really the bottom line of why we are exploring this as an option for potential savings to the district. So while we recognize it's a difficult conversation and you know, one that we have certainly struggled with, but we're going to focus this evening on the monetary value and different costs associated with the open enrollment. So with that said, I provided for you a little bit of factual information relative to not just the savings that we would incur, but also some average class sizes. So just what would happen and I broke it down per level. So there's certainly different decisions that we can consider, but in doing so, I wanted to break it down by level, so elementary, middle, and high school, so you can see what the savings would be for each level, and what the impact would have keeping open enrollment or discontinuing it, either at one level, all levels, whatever it is. We can look at all of that taken apart. So the obvious at elementary school is that we closed the building. And as a direct result, and obviously one that you would expect, we had to take a couple hundred students, if not more, and consolidate, right, and put them into all of our other buildings. So with that being said, I provided for you the average class sizes, what it would look like with open enrollment and without open enrollment. The average school sizes is really where you see some impact. So with open enrollment at elementary, we do have a couple of schools that would exceed that 400, which is one of the goals I had, was maintaining 400 or less students in a building to keep it reasonable and efficient and effective for our principals to be able to manage a school that size without having to add an administrator, because clearly that would add a cost, and I'm trying to avoid doing that. So there are a couple schools that get to, DeWitt and Lincoln surpass that 400. And then if you look at some of the other schools, they're at or over capacity of what they can actually hold. So what I want to point out in this as well is even the schools that look like they might have a little bit of space, which is probably Silver Lake and maybe Richardson, what we didn't account for is additional kindergartens. So there's a big difference here that I spotted. We were talking about this the other day, and we noticed that this year we were counting our kindergarten sections. We have 16. Now, if you recall, we had to add 2 late. So 14 is generally where we've been, but we had a really weird increase, meaning that we had a little bit here, a little bit there, and so we ended up with some smaller kindergarten sizes, but we had no choice but to add 2. Now, really, if you just took the aggregate of that and divided it, you wouldn't need all those sections, but because they're all scattered throughout, we had to add 2. So we're at 16 sections. I only accounted for in this 13 sections. So if we get more kindergartners, let's say at Price, they're already on the brink. They're going to be over capacity even if they just get another kindergarten section. So that's important to note. Same with Richardson or Silver Lake as well. I don't anticipate, it's hard to say, but I don't necessarily anticipate Richardson needing a 4th section, but certainly Price, it is not, I would not be surprised if we add a 3rd section there of kindergarten. So just that in of itself would eliminate any room for open enrollment there. And so again, we're left with potentially a little bit of space at Richardson, maybe a little bit at Silver Lake. And again, looking at it's a little deceiving looking at the school sizes, because you really have to break it down by grade level. And so what we've done in a different exercise is we're keeping in mind that we have to do intra-district first, and I know you all know that before we do the inter-district placements, but that can skew kind of all of this. But we know that what we've done is we've identified spots per grade level to say, okay, DeWitt at kindergarten or at 2nd grade has 3 spots or 4, and so we broke it down like that. So when it comes time to do the intra-district, which is in a couple of weeks here, that's when things will shift again, okay? But we're not going to exceed the number of sections. What we have is what we have. We won't be adding staff to accommodate those, so we're just going to do it based on the open spots we have, and we will have them. But please keep in mind that all of that shifting has to happen before we can consider the interim.
These 16 open enrolled Preston students,
Yep.
did we roll those up as well?
They're not included in here.
But we rolled them up to their next
Yes.
category before we accounted for 16.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
so we're talking about 85 students. I did the quick math here.
Okay, yeah, that is about right, yes, if I recall, in elementary. Yeah, this is definitely a collaborative effort, and I think I told the board, like, we have all been working on this. Every member of my team has been kind of tackling, so this will be, please keep it, you feel free to ask my folks some questions there too, because we did this all together, we all had parts. So, yeah, so those are some things, important things to keep in mind. Just a small side note, but I think it's relevant, because I feel I need to provide you with the entire picture. Any school that gets over 400 students, we have to pay additional stipend to principals, so I just noted that. And then typically, in my experience, and there was at one time some,
Well, we could change that though. It's an administrative handbook.
sure, we could.
amend that tonight.
we could,
So, I mean,
Yes.
that's a
Yeah.
choice we make. It's not,
when it's time to negotiate, yeah, which is
well, we
now.
don't have to negotiate. We can change the administrative handbook anytime. It's
We-
different than
we
a
could.
negotiated agreement, so.
We could.
I don't know that
yeah.
that 2,000,
Yeah.
I mean, $2,000 is more
As it's,
negligible.
and it's not,
but
it is, but again,
I wouldn't count that in there, because that's something we can take out anytime.
yes.
Whether we should is a different argument.
Okay.
But it,
All right.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have no obligation.
Yeah. Okay, and then if we, so the other piece that we did here, when we broke it down, if you'll see in the next portion with the elementary savings, so again, just a very negligible, little bit of stipends there, but the other costs that you're going to see there, our curriculum department and technology departments went through, and this was a rather lengthy exercise, and they looked at all of the, like Chromebooks, for example, all the software. I don't think, I know I did not realize how many licenses and softwares that are associated with every grade level. So there was some figuring, now, we didn't just take the total cost of a Chromebook, for example. So there was an amortization, if you will, chart that Ryan put together, so it's a cost, a portion of a Chromebook, for example, like $75 maybe, even though they cost $300. We didn't put that whole $300 into that. So they broke it down, and in doing so, they broke it down by grade level, and so in doing so, there you see what it is per student. And so we took the number of students that we have at each grade level, and we multiplied that out, and then you could see the total cost that we're expending on students there, and so it comes to $27,601 at the elementary level. So the savings, not a ton of money, not a lot of money per se, but it's more so a capacity issue at elementary. So if we were to continue open enrollment, please know that it would be a struggle and there would not be a whole lot of spots there. And again, a direct result of closing an elementary school. Okay, any questions on elementary before I move on?
So I see that it says 301 for Silver Lake is inaccurate.
Yeah.
By 70, is that inaccurate?
So this is from 2019, which isn't all that long ago. I believe it's 2019, and Ryan's not here to confirm, but if I recall the OFCC report, no, it's older than that. It might have been 2009. 2015? Yeah, it's older than 2019. So it's in my opinion outdated, but this is why I took so much time to walk and my team to look at Silver Lake, because 301 cannot fit there. Now, if you didn't have specialized classrooms and art, and yeah, you can get the 300 there, but it is not feasible to put 300 there.
Okay, right, but you have 231 here, so is 231 what you think the
Yeah, in
actual
fact, when
that's
we-
a huge discrepancy.
It is, and I agree, but I had to spend a lot of time on that because I had a misconception when I looked at the numbers. I thought, okay, we could get 270 or whatever, but when I went and actually looked, because what they didn't factor in, what I did not factor in the first time, I thought we had another classroom in there. I forgot about a teacher's lounge, for example. The staff needs an area to go. Art, music, they're already, sharing some space. They have in the past. You have the media center down there. And then we have our special education rooms, and what happens when we consolidated our schools, we now need more room for our special needs students.
And then, just so I understand, when you add a section of kindergarten, like you have three, you had two and now you have three, but you don't then also have three sections of first grade the next
No,
year? How
not
does
right.
that work?
Yeah, it's a moving, it's definitely a moving parts here, because
Okay.
one year, and that does happen frequently, where we'll have 2 kindergartens, and then maybe 3 first grades, and then they just move up, so we have to bump a teacher out sometimes to another
Okay.
grade level.
All right.
But 231 isn't the capacity you have on here for Silver Lake. It's just how many students there would be
Right.
without open
Yes,
enrollment.
that's correct. And so
Just to
I
go
think the
back to-
question was,
Yeah.
could they
Well, it just,
fit?
I mean, I was just curious about that
Okay.
It's just
large
how many
gap.
students there would be without open enrollment.
And we can, and so the answer is yes, we can accommodate that, but not a whole lot more. But
Okay.
there is a little bit of room at Silver Lake. Okay, I'll move along to middle school.
And there would be no impact on staffing at elementary school, correct?
We believe that, no, there would not be. No. Because again, 85 students spread out, yeah. All right.
So,
Yes.
just one more, so ultimately, we don't really know what space we have until we do the intra-district
That's correct.
piece.
We have an idea right now, but it doesn't make, it doesn't
So
make
it's a-
sense.
It's really an unknown
Yeah,
with a small economic impact.
that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. All right, so moving along to middle school, this is really where we're going to spend some time. And I have Mr. Oswald here and Mr. Smith is here for some high school questions as well. So there are 2 ways in which there's two competing things happening here. So we're here to talk about open enrollment, but I have to point out another suggested approach, because we know we have to save money and we have to do it somewhere. So one of the things that we will have you have a short presentation on from Mr. Oswald, and he can entertain some questions along with Ms. Hausman. They've been working on this, is this revised approach to teaming. Teaming would still exist. It will look a little different on what our approach is and what we're recommending, and there will be a savings there. That model alone, we're anticipating, with just modifying, could be up to $500,000. We've spoken to the union, and we've worked through this and some ideas, we've hashed this out, so they know that this is certainly a consideration. And then, so with that, if you look at, and again, we'll come back to Mr. Oswald's presentation to give you more details, but the additional savings, if we did not have, so if we kept open enrollment, we would save $500,000 if we do the modified approach. If we were to reduce middle school open enrollment, we would save an additional $324,000. And that, again, is based on the teaming. I think what I will do is, we'll pause there. I'll come back to Elkview High School after. But I'm going to have Mr. Oswald and Mrs. Hausman talk to you about teaming. And
Sorry,
then-
you said that was
yes.
on top of the 500?
Yeah, so yes.
Okay.
So some of the, just for reference, so like we already have some retirements right now. So some of the factors are of these, like what the savings would be, are actual based on what we do know, would be leaving if we were to not replace it. The ones that, aren't or would be a RIF are based on a lower, kind of BA0, kind of a hybrid between single to family insurance. It's at about $75,000 total per employee for those quantities that we don't know yet. So I think we had 2 or 3.
Yeah, 3, middle school, I
3
think.
actuals in this, and then the other ones for all these others were based on that kind of 75,000 number.
Actually, I'm sorry, it was 2. We started with 3, it's 2.
Two.
Yeah,
Two.
2, and then the third, we just kept a lower average.
Before we get to the presentation, we know that we put in that attendance piece. Do we have any numbers yet on open enrolled students that won't be allowed back based on attendance? Are there people that have met that threshold already? like that's like a third piece. Like we have, if we don't change, if we change, and then also like what's gonna
Some that
happen
naturally-
anyway.
Yeah, and some for discipline, to be quite honest with you, there's a couple that
Yeah.
will not be
And
allowed,
that-
permitted back because of
Because
discipline.
discipline and then the attendance that's in the policy, so, obviously we don't have that tonight, I only thought of that question now. If I would've, if I would've thought in advance, I would've
Yeah.
shot at that question at you, so we could have had
Yeah, we can
that
get that.
information. But now that I'm thinking of that, it could add another layer, of our thinking on this, and perhaps another option depending on what our further discussions on this are. Because maybe that creates a middle way. I don't know what other people think, but
Yeah.
just trying to find good options that impact students the least.
President Gomez, Vice President Schaefer, first time I got to say that. Board members, Dr. Selico, Mrs. Stoykoy, and the community, thank you for having us here this evening. Teaming is very essential to the middle school model, as well as to the third teacher, which is our building and how it was constructed. And so we will continue to communicate to our stakeholders that teaming is here and will stay. We've developed a committee with teacher leaders, administration, and we're working on bringing the Black Tiger portrait into our teaming essential pieces. And we're also working on 3 types of checklists, so like an operations checklist, and you'll learn more about this at the next board meeting, where we talk about how do we perform together as a team. An academics checklist, so that how do we set those high expectations together as a team of teachers, as well as a cultural one. Every team has a name, they have their own pod, and so how do we bring that culture to life for the children who are part of that pod? So that's kind of what we're working on now. That will all happen in the fall, and then long-term items, our student teaming and some other deeper layers to that will kind of come in over time, over the next few years. So then, before your consideration with open enrollment is what would teaming look like differently if we were to consider not having open enrollment at the middle school. So 2 major changes, which Mr. Oswald will give you the details, would be you could have a 4-person team on a pod, which is how the structure is designed. So you have math, science, social studies, and English. And then you have a 2-person team where one teacher is going to teach 2 subjects and the other teacher would teach the other 2. Something you see at the elementary level, and our middle school teachers, from what I heard at our committee, that they have done that in the past. It wasn't seen as a negative, but it's something that they've seen and could accommodate. And then the last type of teaming model would be kind of like you're blending a grade level, where maybe you're looping a little bit, where some teacher's teaching 7th grade, and then another teacher's teaching 8th grade, and then you would loop those students through those 2 pods. So there's a couple ways that we could approach it if the board would choose to want to go that route. It wouldn't impact all the pods. The majority of the pods would be 4-person teams. And so Mr. Oswald can give you the details about that. In a pod, remember, you share all the same students. So whether it's a 4 or a 2 or a hybrid, they're going to share all the same students. And they'll have those teaming essentials that our committee's working on now, and then we'll launch in the fall. So we just want you to know that whatever you decide, we will be able to support with teaming. Okay? All right, I'm going to let Mr. Oswald go through the numbers because he's a math teacher, and this is his expertise. So, but I'll stand here if you have any questions.
All right, good evening and thank you. So really the 2 pages you have here, one is with open enrollment, one is discontinuing it. Just laying out, right now we currently have 3 teams at each grade level that have 4 teachers in it, excluding our intervention specialists. So 4 core teachers that cover, one person's devoted to language arts, 1 to math, 1 to science, 1 to social studies. Certainly our teachers at the middle school level, if they are an elementary grade band of 1 through 8, or if they're at the middle school grade band 4 to 9, they're typically dual licensed or multi-licensed where they can cover more than one content. So on the page that says with open enrollment, you'll see on a team, and I want to point out before I go through this that this is all done in simplicity. So it's not saying that this is the actual makeup of what that team would look like. I was just pairing up things that make natural sense. So when you see the reduction there, we currently have we actually have 4 teachers that are retiring, but this model right here is saying with the we have 1 at each grade level, an English teacher at each grade level that's retiring. And with that being said, we could easily, through attrition, not replace that teacher, knowing that we have the number of students that are listed at the top there. So like in 6th grade, we have 268 students. If we were to continue to keep our teams around 100 students, so each pod had about 100 students in it, the first team that you see there has 96, the second team would have 97. I was just trying to balance the numbers out. And then the last team would have 75. So that still puts our class sizes between 24 and 25 students per class if you look at it as an elementary example. Nothing in terms of the teaming approach that we currently have would change through either of these models. So we meet as teams daily. Our teachers meet as teams. They have specific tasks to complete daily. None of that changes. And keeping the students within the pod would not change either. So the teachers that are on that team would continue to serve only the students on that team, which is creating our school within a school approach, which is the teaming model that we've been following. So on this page with the with open enrollment, all we would do is that third team, the makeup of that team would look something like what is listed there. So the one teacher would teach ELA and some social studies. We'd have another teacher that could possibly teach math and some social studies, and then science and some social studies. I listed it that way, but it would come down to licensure and seniority when it comes down to like what the exact makeup would be. So it could be ELA and math as a combo, and then we have science and social studies and ELA and social studies or something like that. So with having one less teacher in there, we're still keeping the class sizes the same, but we need to be able to cover all 4 content is essentially what that model is looking at. So that is with continuing with open enrollment. We would need to have at least 3 people on that team in order to keep our class sizes at about 25. Otherwise, we'd be looking at 28, 29 per class when you average it out. On the next page, when you have...
Explain the teaching piece again. So if there's 3 teachers, how are they covering all subjects? Again, can you walk me through that one?
Yeah, so the bell schedule we have is deceiving. It's a 7-period day, but essentially the kids are going to 6 classes a day. Right now, the 1 period is devoted to academy, which is where we do a lot of our enrichment, our intervention, and it's time for students to work as well. So if you look at that as that period not existing, there's a 6-period day. Of those 6 periods, the students are receiving their 4 core classes of ELA, math, science, and social studies, and then 2 periods of electives, whether that's what we call them unified arts. So your band, your choir, your art, and health, et cetera. So what that one team would look like is that, for example, if I just use what's listed right here, that ELA social studies combination would likely be that teacher would cover 3 sections of ELA, 1 section of social studies. And then the next person would cover 3 sections of math, 1 section of social studies. And then science would be 3 sections of science and 1 section of social studies to make up the fact that we need 3 sections to cover 75 kids. Does that make sense? Do you need me to clarify that?
It's almost like they would each teach social studies to their homework. So everybody teaches social studies. The state actually came out with a new integrated standards model just this week on how to integrate science and social studies through K-8. I don't know, it's in a draft form right now, but they're putting things together. So if we went that route, there are supports coming from the state with standards to kind of help with alignment too.
So when you build a master schedule, students would still take the classes independent of one another through their day. The teachers would still teach independently, but it would look something like this. For simplicity, let's say we had 4 periods, just 1 through 4. This ELA teacher might teach social studies first period and then ELA second, third, and fourth, to where the math teacher might teach math, social studies, math, so that the kids are able to take the classes throughout their day, and the teachers are able to accommodate all of the sections that are required for those content. So when you look at that team, there's 3 homerooms, if you will. So we would need to have 3 ELA sections, 3 social studies, 3 math, and 3 science to cover that entire team. To whereas the other teams have 4 homerooms, 4 teachers, which are naturally covering everything through 4 periods, if that makes sense.
But 6th grade would still have their Unified Arts 1 and 7. That would,
Maybe not necessarily those periods, but yeah, they would still have, so nothing
Wouldn't
really
matter
changes
what
in the
pod.
student schedule or really anything we're doing other than right now we have a teacher on every team that's devoted to each subject. One of our teams with this approach would just have the teachers would be responsible for more than one content.
How would we select the teachers for that team?
So I've already been having conversations with the teams just to get a feel for what they're interested in. So I sent out a survey asking teachers their primary preference as well as their secondary, knowing that some teachers, since I've been here, have primarily taught the same thing, but I've heard through conversations throughout the last 3 years, we have some teachers like, oh yeah, I used to teach social studies back in the day. I taught it at this grade, which is different than what I'm experiencing them with. So knowing that they're dual licensed, I wanted to find out what their comfort level was and what they'd be interested in. I approached it from the standpoint of we're just exploring all of our options right now, and I've also let them know that you guys are considering the impacts of open enrollment versus not having open enrollment. So with all that being said, they have taken that information and understand what I was asking them, and then also that was where conversations that Mrs. Hausman alluded to, that this has been done in the past in terms of teaming, primarily at Bullock. It sounds like they certainly did it where they had teams where they were not a complete team of 4 teachers covering all 4 subjects. There was dual licensure in there to cover the other content.
So, and because they're a team, 3 of them would collaborate together on the social studies, so
Yes.
the kids were getting the same
Yep.
consistent
Yeah, absolutely.
level.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why I preface with that, like the whole teaming structure, because right now, the way our teaming works, they rotate every day into a different facet when they meet in their TBTs. So one day is content-driven, where they're discussing content. That would be a day where they could work on that. We have a flex day in there, which allows them for another content day. That was done by design for what we're doing this year, but also could really work well in this scenario where we have a teacher that is teaching 2 contents. One day they could focus on their primary content with their, so when they meet in content days, the 6100 team, 6200 team, and 6300 team, all 3 of those ELA teachers are getting together and collaborating. So what we would do is in those scenarios, we would have on the day like when social studies is meeting, if this were the format, we would have all 3 of those teachers and then the other 2 social studies teachers collaborating. So it would really be 5 of them collaborating to make sure that they're addressing standards the same way across all 3 teams, and then as well as vertically within their team. any more questions on that page?
I have two questions. On
Yeah.
a professional development day, now I have a middle school teacher, they're teaching two different things. How do I get all my professional development in? Because I'm a social studies teacher and another teacher. So my colleagues are just social studies teacher.
Well, for the most part, we've been focusing on teacher clarity, and then in the fall, it will be a lot on teaming, been doing writing. So if there's specific professional development because standards have changed or the assessments have changed or something like that, or a new adoption, then yes, we would, ensure that teacher that crosswalks would have that. But we have that at the elementary level now. I always tease Mr. Oswald, we teach all the subjects at the elementary level. And so, we look at that PD and we try to choose PD that actually washes over any subject. So I think they would be fine. But if standards change, then obviously we would want to give them targeted support. But we're not hearing anything like that's happening. So we won't ask for that.
Most of our professional development is aimed towards math and ELA, which are the two tested subjects. We do have some science in there certainly, but those are the two main ones. In the last few years when we've been working with Dr. Wilfong and some of our English professional development, she's actually been teaching it across the standards, or I'm sorry, across the content. So quite honestly, the reason I paired up the way I did on here was because a lot of our K to 8 or our 1 to 8 licensed people can teach any of the subjects. And social studies, their standards are different in the sense that it's not like math where it's a progressive subject and they build upon skills. Same thing with ELA. It's a lot more of introducing information and seeing if the students understood it, understanding the content. It's not a building blocks kind of situation like math and ELA are.
How would students be chosen for which team they're going to be in? Because some are going to have 4 teachers and some are going to have 3. And
Yeah.
I already can anticipate hearing from parents about that.
So the way that we set up teaming and the way we set up the teams now, and we'll exclude like the whole, we had Bullock and Roberts in the fall. So
That'll change.
right, in terms of the way we handle that now, it's not, we don't even consider the teachers as much as we consider the needs of the students. So when we're designing the team, we're looking at various things. If it's a student that is receiving support on an IEP, and we kind of put those into a schedule first. We consider students that, maybe we've had some conflict in the past, so we try to keep them on separate teams. That's kind of the approach we take. And then in terms of the rest of the students, they're kind of thrown into a hopper, if you will, and it's just randomized. Our student information system, Dazzle, that we use, it will automatically assign students to classes. We just run what's called a batch scheduler, which then identifies what team the rest of the students go on.
I had that same thought as well. There are going to be small pods, so that some people might want the small pod, some people
Yeah.
might consider, I don't know, people
And-
have all kinds of opinions.
Yeah,
so
and
we
those
have
are
to
things-
reassure them that it's going to be the same standard and
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, like knowing that information, so our school counselors are well in tune with that information, and we do meet with our 5th grade school counselors going into 6th grade already. They provide us with a bunch of information. We also know that there are some students that thrive in a smaller environment where they would, we would ensure that they're on that smaller team as well, so that they're in that smaller environment. So we will consider.
The
Yeah.
class size is the same, though.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how often does the entire pod?
Very rarely.
together.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rarely. And that's the thing, I think
Hopefully
it's,
more and more often.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
we're gonna work on that.
Yeah.
Ms.
Yeah.
White and I were going to pipe in
Yeah.
as we
Yeah.
helped design that
Yes.
design,
And
hopefully
that-
more
yeah.
and more often utilizing that.
And that's what I was going to bring up too. We designed the middle school to be in the teams and
Yeah.
team teaching. And I also want to point out that as we move forward, I know it takes a lot of time. And from my perspective, I don't like all the time, but okay, that's me. But at any rate, I know it does take time. But hopefully, like, they'll overlap where English and social studies combine with their learning, they'll
Yeah.
integrate. And I think that's the idea that we had and that we want, so.
Yeah, and we're seeing that, we're seeing that
I
happening now.
heard-
Yeah.
heard that,
No,
yes.
we're seeing that
Very
happening now,
excited.
but in terms of having all 100 of them collaborating on,
One thing, right.
one thing, that very rarely does happen, but
Mm-hmm.
we have had a lot of circumstances where two classes are combining in that collaborative area, and most often it is our science and math collaborating, and then our ELA and social studies, because their standards tend to run with each other. So, yeah, in any given moment, as Mrs. Hausman and I were, oh, no, that wasn't today. You were with me on a different day. The same pod that we were just in. She was with me on a classroom walk today. That pod yesterday, the social studies and the English teacher were collaborating on a writing activity that involved the content they were covering in social studies in the collaborative.
Yeah.
So I witnessed that happening yesterday, and that's happening in all of our grades and all of our pods right now.
So it could be a benefit to have a smaller pod as an option for some
Yeah,
students. But you would still have
right.
the four, full
And
four.
I think there's layers of the student team side. So you have like an intercession where all the pods are working on like a problem-based learning. And so maybe you do that across grade levels. And there's there's perfect weeks, like Thanksgiving week is a perfect week to do those types of special projects. And I think introducing and layering that in. And then there's the highest level of student teaming, which is what Ms. White and I talk about, which are our literature circles, where you're defining actual roles for students. They're doing clear student leadership and leading with their learning, and the teachers facilitating. And so there's a continuum of what that can look like. So there's, dipping your toe into it, which is like an intercessions model, and doing some integrations and working together collaboratively. But there's also the student teaming model, which is a much more going to get into like our portrait of a black tiger, those soft skills that we want to develop. So, and then the actual operational teaming of the adults, we have a good model, but we want to deepen it and make it more intentional, which we started developing.
You can rewrite and present in any subject, right, Ms. White?
You sure can. And don't forget that every subject has literary standards.
Yeah.
The reading standards and so on. So they all have that. So they have to kind of come together in order to get those kids up to speed.
When we originally went to this year, this structure, in the whole process we went through with kind of rehoming students going into the school year between Bullock and Roberts, was with the whole premise that we would try to create 3 equally balanced teams. And just by the way the numbers have worked, we were estimating to have 900 students at the middle school level. We've lost students over time, whether it's open enrollment students that are no longer attending here or resident students that are going elsewhere. So our actual numbers have changed, which is why this concept is really not much different than what we're doing. It's just we have to I keep calling it right-sizing the team to the number of students that we have. The other thing, too, when you're talking about collaboration, and this is just for your information, it's not part of this presentation, is that I also have intentional design with the master schedule so that at least at some point in the day, there's 2 periods that are back-to-back for each grade level, so that if they want to go off script and not have, like, second period's my math class, for me in particular, my second and third period teacher, if we're back-to-back, might collaborate and say, we're actually going to scrap the middle of the period where the bell would normally ring, and we're just going to take that whole 2-hour chunk and do a collaborative project. Our teachers have that autonomy now, but through intentional design for next year's master schedule, we'll make sure that that is in there as well so that they can do that kind of work.
That's excellent.
Any more questions on the with open enrollment side? The without open enrollment side is essentially the same principle. We're just looking at less students. So those numbers then drop to about the 250 mark, which would be 2 teams of about 100 students and 1 team of about 50. And with that being the case, you only have 2 homerooms in that situation, so you would only need 2 teachers to cover that. And again, for simplicity, I put down subjects. That does not necessarily mean that would be the exact makeup. It depends on their licensure. But like, for example, on that top one, we would have a ELA teacher that could also teach social studies. So they would teach 2 sections of ELA, 2 of social studies. And then the math and science would have 2 of each as well to make up the students' entire, their entire, academic schedule. And then the teachers, much to answer your questions before, we would line them up with the correct professional development and content.
There are teachers that already like this idea because it's a smaller team, to be a little bit more narrow, where you have to agree with 4 people. We all know it's easier to agree with just 2. So for some teachers, that might seem appealing to them.
And then the additional, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr.
Can we
Gomez.
not do 100, 75, 75, and then do 4, 3, 3? Would that be an option?
I'm sorry, say that again?
100, 75, 75, and then do 4, 3, 3?
Oh, you could. I will say that scheduling becomes a lot more complicated when you have the 3-way split, because you have to ensure that everybody in those groupings can cover the content that needs covered. When you look at middle level licensure, most people tend to have a mind that's either math science or math an ELA social studies. So it's a lot easier in that regard, but certainly can be done. I just think that what would happen there is we'd have to really study which teachers would fit where based on what we have available. The other thing to keep in mind is that as you get into our 7th and 8th grade, our teachers who are secondary licensed are licensed 7 through 12 in one content. So right now I have, for example, 3 8th grade social studies teachers that are a 7 to 12 social studies. So they are locked in at only teaching social studies, could not teach Indo. So they would have to either be on one of the complete teams, or they would have to teach 2 sections of social studies at 7th grade and 2 at 8th grade. That gets a little bit more complicated. It's doable, but I would prefer to avoid that if I can. So certainly, those are all considerations. And then on both of these options, we do have 2 unified arts teachers that are listed at the very bottom there. Due to our enrollment numbers in general, and now that we have combined both middle school buildings into one, we happen to have 2 that are retiring, and we will not need to replace them based on our current enrollment. And that's in either direction. On the discontinuing open enrollment side, all that does is just lower their class sizes.
Thank you.
When we say 2 unified arts through attrition,
Yeah.
who are we losing, and why do we not need them?
So it's Project Lead the Way and
It would
this other one?
it,
What's the other?
it would be
Help?
phys ed. We have a retirement in
Yeah.
phys ed, but ultimately it would because we have our Saves Act requirements are in our PE classes, it would end up being a health class, because we'll have that person teach, one of the health teachers teach PE.
Okay.
We have a PE teacher retiring, but we'll replace that person, but then through attrition wouldn't replace the health person that would be moving over to PE.
And we're just gonna go down to one project lead the way, or not?
Yes.
Okay.
One.
One, okay. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we weren't
Sure,
limiting opportunities.
yeah. Any other questions for Mr. Oswald or Ms. Hausman? Thank you.
So with the middle school with open enrollment, are those attrition mostly based on the information?
Pretty much.
But if it's with discontinuing open enrollment, those would be additional cuts?
Yeah, so actually I wrote a note as we were talking because I didn't want to interrupt anybody, but one of the things I wanted to mention is this notion of attrition. So clearly there are a couple of things in play here. Certainly we're concerned about the students and, you know, their education. The other piece of this is we're concerned about is staff because it does mean a loss of jobs. This year is a exceptionally high year in retirements. And so as a result, a lot of what is going to be reduced this year is through attrition. In fact, we probably at the end of this will be hiring teachers, especially at the elementary level, not so much at secondary. We do have some teachers who are also certified 1-8, like if they're in my age range. My license is in first grade through eighth grade, so they have some flexibility there. So that will also play into this and help a little bit. So they might bump down into elementary, for example, if there are some reductions there. But we know that we have, I know, Denny, you said 4 total?
So we have
Middle school retirements?
Four teachers
4 core.
retiring. On the discontinuing open enrollment side, you're looking at a reduction of 6, which would really be 4 of those would be retirements, and then there would be 2 additional. To answer that question.
So we're already gonna save 500,000 on the left side
At middle school?
at middle school. And if we choose the right side, additional 324.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I said middle school is really the biggest impact, but the teaming model in itself is a costly one, which is why some districts don't do it, because it is very expensive to do. And so we're still able to preserve teaming, as you heard the differences, so we're still able to preserve that, but with a substantial savings at middle school.
And that's 66 students at middle school.
All right, so moving on to high school. Here, we have a similar situation in which we are going to have some reductions regardless, and that is our auto tech, which we knew. Science teacher based on numbers and scheduling, so after we took a close look at that, Mr. Smith was able to see a reduction there, and we do have a resignation there, so we won't have to reduce any that teacher. And then an IS, and again, at the middle school, I don't know that we mentioned that, but an IS, intervention specialist, is able to be reduced there as well. So with that said, there's a $275,000 savings. Now, I took the actual salaries, for example, of like the auto tech teacher, because we know what that is, and the others, we did some estimating. And then with discontinuing open enrollment, we have an additional 2 teachers, and again, that's based on, I think we said close to 100 students at the high school, and so just.
103.
103, there you go, see? So the 2 teachers and also a cafeteria worker, because if you take middle school and high school particularly, you're over 100, you're well over 100, 180 students, 185 students, and therefore.
169.
Yeah, I think that middle school numbers, I think actually in the 80s is what I recall. I don't know if anyone
No,
wants to
that's-
confirm that. I see what you're adding up my numbers, but yeah, I recall us being higher, but I could be wrong.
The numbers are right here,
So-
24, 21.
Yeah, that's what I knew you were looking at.
66.
Yeah, there is a little bit of discrepancy on some of our numbers, but it is, so.
Yeah, matriculate them.
Yeah, yes. So let's call it 166 students, that would reduce a cafeteria worker. Now, we recognize also that that's a separate fund, but we will say that we know that our food service is struggling as well, and sometimes we may get to a point where it comes from the general fund, so a savings is a savings, but just to be transparent there. And
Is that a full-time cafeteria worker?
yes, with benefits. It's the benefits included. It actually can range up to 50,000, yeah. So again, these are estimates, of course, but that's with benefits, and it always depends on what a person, if they're single or family benefits, that makes a big difference. So the high school total savings there without open enrollment, discontinuing it, would be $225,611, and that is, again, in addition to that 275. So looking at all of it in its totality, we could be at 1.35. Now, again, this is an estimate, but it is a very large savings, but that is not just open enrollment. Just open enrollment is $577,000 if you were to discontinue it at all three levels. So which is why I broke it down, so should the board make a decision at a certain grade level or grade band, you can see kind of à la carte what the savings would be. And then the last thing I would mention, that we talked about this once before with high school students, for example, if we were to discontinue it, we would look at, seniors, for example, and making some exceptions to have their superintendents do a superintendent's agreement with me that would allow them to graduate in their senior. You could extend that to, if they would consider juniors as well. I can't speak for other superintendents. I know that the few districts that we do draw students from were willing to do that I've spoken to, for the students. They were in support of that. So Mr. Smith is here. I don't know if you have any questions or if there's anything you'd like to say, Mr. Smith, on, if so, you want to come to the microphone, please.
There's really not much to add. It's right there, you just kind of based on running numbers for what we call full-time equivalents and the anticipated reduction of the number of sections necessary to be taught. And that's kind of how we arrived at that.
The 2 additional teachers, what subject areas would those be in?
We would anticipate 1 math and 1 social studies.
And then my concern, I shared this with Dr. Selko, is that when you have less students, so then you have less teachers, and then that leads to being able to offer less opportunities, namely electives, because you just have less folks to offer less in there.
Right. With this, we would maintain most of where our electives are offered, in the arts and math with the 4 credit requirements. There's not a lot of elective opportunities. And,
Social studies.
Social studies there are, yeah, but we have a number of those opportunities that, as of right now, we're a little bit over in what we would consider full-time equivalents, and this would bring it down to what we would anticipate a traditional 20 to 25 students, and I don't anticipate that we would lose many offerings.
With the loss of a science teacher, do we anticipate anything there? 'Cause we
No,
do
in fact,
offer
we,
electives in science,
yeah.
and obviously the best in astronomy.
Right. No, we were, science is a little trickier because of the way their licensure works. They're, not everybody could do everything, but we were over probably this year, to be completely honest with you. One of the things that we didn't make a change last year because we were changing biology and physical science. And because of the licensure, we didn't want to mess around with anything and then really put ourselves in a bad situation. But after running the numbers this year and then what we anticipate for next year, it's pretty evident that we can comfortably, we can not need to refill that position. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
So I would, I guess, look to my right here. Treasurer Stoyko, if there's anything that I didn't miss, or I know we went over this together, that I missed or that you want to add?
I think the only thing to keep in mind we've talked about before is these are the savings on the expense side. Obviously, we talked about what are known quantities now we input, but the rest are based on a very least senior person kind of getting riffed. There will be, if you were to completely do away with, I'm just talking about the open enrollment portion here, we would see a small decrease in revenue, definitely less than obviously these are offset. We would see a one-time adjustment to the formula for going past that 10%. That's not a lot. I'd have to look and see what it was this year, what it would project for next year. It's not a lot because then the majority of it gets picked up by another guarantee, like a transitional guarantee supplement. So we don't lose the entire thing just because of being on the guarantee. The second thing is that, you know, we do have some revenue for excess costs for our special education students. That shouldn't be significant either. The forecast, because we reduced from last year to this year already, shows a decrease going into next year and did so in October. And so I can't remember the number this year off the top of my head. Do you remember how many open enrolled students are? Is special ed, yeah.
Yeah, so there's 14 in elementary, 8 in middle, and 19 in high school.
Yeah.
39, I think it's 39, and it was 69 at one point, if I recall, it was something to that effect. It was a,
Yeah, so, so there would be a little bit of decrease there, not completely, because some of those students, for excess costs are court-placed. It's not just open enrollment, so that's just a portion of it. So those kids that are court-placed, we would continue to receive those funds, but you also have to remember on the flip side, what's not being counted in here either as a savings, on the expense side, is that some of those students, for example, outside of the teacher, we may pay for OT and PT, or, you know, a specialized vision, or hearing, or any number of those things that we outsource outside of the district. Those, you would realize a savings there as well. So really, you know, excess cost is supposed to be getting you back what you've spent. So even the reduction in that revenue from getting excess costs, it wouldn't just be that, because you would also see a reduction on the expense side as well for those students, because you wouldn't be servicing them anymore.
On this high school page, so savings without change is 275,000 in red. High school total savings, 225, 611. Where is that green figure? Is that
the green one is just for open enrollment.
okay, so is that the total of the 2 teachers, the cafeteria worker?
Yes.
So that's, to me, not adding up. So and then 275 plus 225, 611 doesn't add up to
Yeah,
577,
you're right,
212.
there is a,
So these aren't adding up to me.
no, you're right, because there was a last minute, there was a
Okay.
change in this. It's
So-
actually for 500, 611.
But when I add up 2 teachers, 1 cafeteria worker, the red and the blue, I get 261, 222.
Okay.
So, and then my final number for yellow is 536, 222.
I think, so the blue numbers
Oh, I
are
see.
totaled
Yeah.
as that 35,611. That's the
Yeah.
total of the blue numbers. I think what I heard you
Yes.
say is that you
You don't add the red and the blue. is what
counted
they're
them
saying.
both, so that might be
Oh.
why.
The blue equals the red in other costs.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, say that again?
So all those per student where it's broken down, that 11,010, 5,008.
That's the 3 red numbers divided by the number of students.
Yeah, the green is correct.
Okay,
And then the yellow should be
Yeah,
500, 611.
611, yeah.
500, 611.
So
Is that different?
77,000
Does
less.
that change the pink,
Problem.
the one?
Oh, yeah, by
1.3?
70,000. So it would be, your number would be 611, 5. 1.275, 611. So a difference of 75,000. It was a difference of 1 teacher. And frankly, it could be that high. We just estimated the salaries. There will be a range, of course, of savings as for what, you know, Ms. Stoikoi discussed. But yes, that number
Right,
is
I
wrong.
mean, these are all estimates, but I just
Yeah.
needed to make
You're
sure
right.
I
No, that's
understood
right.
where things were.
But the blue are, yes, added into the red.
Okay,
Thank you.
No, I think the
We'll correct that.
red might still be right.
The red is right?
Give me a second.
No, I think it's gonna be off a little bit.
the red should be,
1.275, 611? revised it so many times, we might have missed the one number.
The
when
red
we were
is
doing
still correct, even though
Is
the
it?
yellow was wrong.
it. Okay,
I did it twice.
okay, all right, okay. Bottom line, I guess, bottom line is good, but, yeah, the others. So, essentially, I guess, what I would just add is, the only feedback I've heard is just, people's urgency or concern about when that would, when the decision would be made. Certainly not any kind of pressure on our end. We still have to play out the intra-district, as we know, that process. And then we will factor this in with staffing and reductions, usually around, this is about the time we start putting things together a little bit. And then we have to, Ms. Bogdan, by what contractually, when do we have to let the reductions enforce?
Our goal is to let them know in March, after we've made an open enrollment decision, and so I've done some of the intro and which gives us that 45-day.
And contractually, they have to know by?
Our teachers.
Yes.
I feel like it's late.
Few days before the board acts on it.
It's late. It's like now, it's not a lot, I don't feel like, if I remember correctly.
April.
Will this affect our 6-district compact? I mean, I know if kids are enrolled as a junior into a program, would we still allow them to continue in that
Oh,
program?
yes, that would,
Okay.
so that would not impact them. The only thing I was thinking was
Okay.
just the loss of our auto tech program, we know, but they
Yeah.
do have that opportunity to take
I
it in
think
Hudson.
do you mean open enrolled students that were?
Yes, that are accepted into like the.
If they're in the compact itself, then no, but if it's maybe an open enrolled student from Akron, say,
Okay,
then
might
yes,
then.
that would be impacted.
Yeah.
So Anthony, what you were getting at with the current open enrolled students that will not be able to return is that we will have fewer, I guess
There'll be a financial savings there.
Yes.
And we don't know if there could be some of these additional, we don't know if that will impact some of these additional cuts or not at this time. So we know it'll be, the minimum that we'll save is $775,000, but we also know that that number will be greater because some of these students in 6 through 12 won't come back, and there is a cost associated with that.
Yeah, okay, with continuing open enrollment. So if we were to not allow new open enrollment, keep the ones
We
currently
don't allow
open
new
enrollment.
open enrollment.
Sorry?
We don't allow new open enrollment. For the last 2 years, we
Oh,
haven't taken
okay, so
anyone new in.
everyone currently is just kind of grandfathered in, okay. So
'Cause
we,
the superintendent can do that in our policy. She has ultimate
Okay.
determination of who gets in.
okay,
So this will be the third year of not letting new people in. That's why in grade 1, it doesn't change.
Right,
if
we
you
didn't have
see-
any, we didn't let any.
And
have
kindergarten's
any
the
ones.
same.
okay.
Well, kindergarten, yeah. This will be year 3 of it, coming up,
Is it year 3,
yeah.
2?
This year coming up that we're talking about will be year 3.
So last year was no K. And those are what you're seeing in AAA to the first grade, and no 6, 7, 8. We had done 12. After our plan.
Absolutely, there's no date that's specified in the language,
Okay,
but our goal is, we have to notify 45 days before the
let's go through these as a board, one at a time. Let's start at elementary. So elementary, we know space is the main issue here.
Right.
And we have two decisions to make. One, do we let people apply at all, knowing that there's gonna be limited space, or do we not let people apply at all? That's really the decision we're making with elementary. Because there's not gonna be space for all these folks. That's just the reality, and we've already come to that determination in reality. So, the choice at elementary is, do we let folks apply, or do we say, we're not even gonna let you apply? That's what we have to decide at elementary.
It's not a huge savings to let them come.
It's a
No,
capacity.
it's not a huge savings to not let them come. If we make a different decision for middle and high, will these people make a different decision for elementary? If they know they're not gonna be able to keep going through the system, or do people just come for elementary and then?
So a couple things, I just want to make sure the commentators don't hear it right. We're talking about reapplying on your annual renewal
Yeah.
plus new. Where middle school, high school make a difference is just in sibling numbers. So if I have a sibling at multiple levels, that does affect, a good deal of our families. So that will give them a choice to make if you say one, so one,
Like,
yes to.
your elementary can stay, but your older kids will not be able to. That would be a,
Correct, and it's kind of the same thing when we have current open enrolled students who then have a sibling that comes in at kindergarten. It's the same choice that they have to make, and they make those choices.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I would give folks, would rather have people have the option and leave it up to space.
I agree with that.
These numbers already include some students that are open enrolled, correct?
The far side,
These ones?
yeah. So we know they're not all gonna fit. That's just the reality
Right.
of the decisions we had to make.
I would be fine with it, but I hate to give people false hope too, that, I can,
Well, I think
it's just a
that's
concern.
just, I think the communications that go out,
Yes,
will be
would
honest,
be-
just like the intra one was, very
Right.
honest with people about,
That was my concern.
Yeah, exactly.
it's gonna be a space permits and space may not permit.
Yeah, as long as we do, communicate that.
Does that give you clarity? Do you need us to discuss anything else at elementary?
So elementary, where, are we clear on
Current,
that?
current folks,
Current stay?
Based
No.
on space.
can
Yes.
reapply based on space.
Okay. Yeah, we won't know that until after
We did
interest
not
done.
say they stay, because that's not
Sure,
a
okay.
commitment we can make.
Yeah, we can't, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so reapply, we'll consider based on space.
I
So with that
Certainly
said,
don't think we can
Okay.
take in new folks. I don't think
Yeah.
that will be,
so I'm guessing, again, space, if any availability, would probably be a little bit at Richardson, and a little bit at Silver Lake, depending on what inter-districts have.
and you might have some at Lincoln,
I would,
maybe.
yeah,
But we'll see. I mean, we don't really know until after
Yeah.
the intra goes, because we don't know how many intra folks we're gonna be able to accommodate. I mean, that's gonna be a puzzle,
it is, yeah.
especially
But-
these next couple of years.
So we'll keep the statistics on the current requests for intra-district transfers. So we know where they are currently assigned and their first and second choice based on the application that started February 1st. So we have somewhat of an idea where
If you're gonna keep talking, go to the microphone, please. Yeah, thanks.
so we have some idea where,
You just start over what you're saying.
oh,
Yeah, we want people to be able to hear at home.
no, I forgot what I said. It was good too. In my head, it sounded great.
Brilliant.
So we are keeping current statistics on the applications for the request for intra-district enrollment. So we're able to kind of get a view where students are currently assigned and their first and second choice to where they would like to go in the inter-district conversation. So once we kind of go through the process after the window closes on the 28th, we will go through the process. Our plan is to be able to help Ms. Bogdan out by having some discussion about the one-for-ones that we can move based on the available spaces that we know that we currently have versus the individuals who are moving from one building to the next, and get those out within a very short period of time after the window closes. Once we do that, that'll help us get a better idea. But our challenge is, right now, I can say that the spaces that I know that we have most likely available is not the places where people are requesting to go. So I said all that to tell you, just be mindful that where people are asking to go is not where the most available space is going to be, regardless. Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay, I have nothing to add to that, I got you. I understand. No, I said I have nothing to add. Mr. Gomez asked if I was clear on it. I'm clear now. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. I just want to make sure.
Yes. And before you continue, I just want to point out, before I forget, the numbers are actually correct on here. If you add all the green together, just for clarification, that equals that yellow number on the back. And then when you add all of the red and the green numbers together, you do get that pink number. So those are correct.
Okay, all right.
I just want to make, it was bugging me, I'm sorry, I was like, I'm not saying it couldn't be wrong, because we did modify many times today, so, but, okay, thanks.
Okay. So middle school. We have two models here. We know that teaming is changing in some way, no matter what, and that even without going to the open enrollment piece, the savings is $500,000. If we touch the open enrollment piece, that adds $324,000. This is my thought, and I've shared this with our administration. I would personally, we know we're going to go for a levy in November. We've made a lot of really tough cuts. And we also have to put out a statement of facts with our levy of what happens if this levy passes or fails. I would rather keep open enrollment for now. It's not a ton of students. It's 254 total students. And I get that those families are not the ones voting on our levy. I understand that. So it makes it hard sometimes to advocate for these students because they're not the people within the district that are voting or paying the taxes. But those students are also perhaps the best friend of a student in our district that is the one that makes a student in our district whose parents pay taxes and vote for the levy want to come to school every day. And so if we're going to cut out those 254 students,
I'm sorry, where are you getting 254?
that's the numbers that are on here.
For middle school?
For-
Open enrollment?
For the whole district.
Okay, thank you, all right, I'm sorry.
I would rather do it as something we have to do, not something we're choosing to do. That's for me. So I would rather go in November for a levy and say if this levy fails, this is one of the things we have to do. We won't have a choice
Yeah, true.
because we know it'll save us money and we won't have a choice. Could it save us some money now? Sure. But it's not something that I would prefer to do because not only does it impact students that have been with us for a long time, up to 13 years next year, but students that are friends and make an impact within our district on kids that do live in our district and families that do live in our district.
And they've chosen to come to us. They want to be in our district, and that, I appreciate that. I know these families. We all know them personally. It's painful.
And I will say, in the last probably 2 decades, 254 open enrolled students is probably a historic low of open enrollment. So I know there are people in our community who hate that we have ever had open enrollment.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the worst thing in the world. I don't think that personally, but this is not a huge number of students comparatively in the broad scheme of open enrollment in our district. And I just have a hard time doing it. Just like it was the same thing with closing a school.
Yeah, it's
Could
hard.
we have closed a school 3 years ago in elementary school? We could have, but we didn't have to. So why do things that we know are going to harm students before it's something that you have to do? I really have a hard time doing things that harm students before it's something that you have to do when you know it's not good for a student.
Yeah.
Can we keep the ones that we have already, but not have any new ones come in?
That is what we showed here today.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So the savings would,
But we're keeping the ones that are already enrolled,
As long
That's
as
what
they
you're gonna
haven't
decide.
violated the attendance.
attendance
Yeah.
policies.
Or
which is a
Yes,
small
okay.
number, but yes.
Okay.
Can I just add, and it will probably be a little more clear come next meeting
Yeah.
when I give the forecast. My concern is, and this is strictly from the dollars of it all, is that we may be in a situation, without some of these things based on other factors that I don't wanna get into quite right now, but I will go into more explanation, that some of the assumptions that were in October may have changed as far as increases for next year in certain areas. So there is potential, and as we know also, the sale of these buildings is not looking as fruitful. And we pared it down in October. I'm of mind, and I have right now kind of backed that down even more, just out of being conservative. But my concern is, and I'm not totally finished yet, so I can't say that this is a for sure, but my concern is that we are gonna be back in a position whether we, because I have to file it in February, and if, let's say, we don't have a decision or what we're doing, well, we're gonna have to give another financial recovery plan and turn around and say, this is what we're doing anyway, because of that. Now, I don't know that for sure, but the potential is most certainly there that it may be necessary. Whether it is in the, probably more of the third year, but that would include the savings starting next year. So what I'm saying is that the third year may be where we're getting a little dicey. If you remember in October, it was only like 200,000 we were in the positive. And now that we've maybe thought some expenses might be a little more than we thought, and a little bit less on the revenue side for the buildings, that could potentially put us in the negative in year 3, which would trigger ODE and that written plan, which we would have to. Now, is this where the cuts would have to come from? Not necessarily, but you're also getting to kind of slim pickings elsewhere because of the cuts that we've already made. And so the other thing I would say, and I think Dr. Selico already mentioned it once, is we do have kind of an abnormal amount of retirements this year. And so obviously that would be a more apt time for something like that, as opposed to having to do it after a year and then hiring someone and then having to let that person go after a year because we've just, we're at the point whether the levy doesn't pass, whether, some of these things don't, some of these assumptions you know, start to become reality, obviously, you know, that's a little bit of a moving target. And I think you could see that, you know, we know what kind of a big swing and insurance can have. I won't know that till April, for sure. And
And what do you anticipate there?
huh?
You anticipate bad news there, right? Insurance?
Yes. I mean, I don't anticipate great news. I don't anticipate it being any worse than before, but I don't anticipate it being much better. Which again, we'll go into the reasons why and how that's kind of works. I'm also kind of waiting because kind of at end of February is when that cutoff point is for like that renewal conversation, as far as our claims and everything like that. So I'll have a better idea, but it concerns me that if you recall, the first time it happened, over the course of the forecast, it was a $7 million swing to the negative. And so my concern is that even in the forecast before, we're treading where it's, you know, if that could take us out at any point in time, and that concerns me, and it's abnormal. It's outside of the historical trend, and it is abnormal, even comparative to other places. It's just the length of time our situation has kind of gone on. I think it's going to be. I think it is right sizing. I just don't think it's right sized soon enough for this next renewal to, like, you know what I mean? So like we don't have enough months, like good months in there, because it's a 2-year look back period. And so, again, I don't want to get into all of it because I'll explain kind of all of that next time. But my concern is that we're going to do this potentially to have a negative in the 3rd year, and then perhaps turn around and say, with a written plan, here's what we're going to do anyway.
Well,
May I
isn't
make a
that just
suggestion?
what your point was, Anthony, that you don't want to do it till we have to, but you're saying that
We
might be.
Might
now.
have to. but we
Yes, like I said, it's, I'm not complete yet, and I'm kind of waiting to hear on that insurance front as well, looking at what claims have come in this week to kind of really gauge where we're at, because that's gonna be the big factor. The sale of the buildings is gonna be the other, big factor, and, you know,
Can I,
what we once anticipated is obviously not.
can I ask you a question? And I'm gonna step out of my lane, admittedly, but I would recommend, and I so appreciate the fact that we're trying to be decisive this evening, but based on what I'm hearing from Ms. Stoikoi, I think it would be worthwhile to wait till next meeting till you hear her forecast, and maybe we could even talk about factoring these numbers in, because what she can show you is how far the savings would get you. We might see that it's not gonna do much, you might see that, oh my goodness, it's,
Yes.
because remember, it compounds as well. The savings isn't just a one-time savings when you make reductions in force, you save over time, so that may make a drastic impact on our 5-year forecast. But if I'm wrong, please feel free, but I don't wanna step into your lane.
I
that-
mean,
that
I would
would
agree,
be-
because I think you want to see the
helpful,
whole picture, and like I
Mhm.
said, I'm not even to the point yet of like totally
Yeah.
seeing the whole picture. I'm still working on a few other things, you know, as far as with the building project and some things going on there. But I think, you know, we'll know, obviously, the thing is, with that, is that, you know, I'm going to present something, if I present something that is in the red in any of those first, you know, 3 years, it's going to trigger that, just so, you know, we're aware. Now, my preference would be, it's not always the most ideal, you know, my preference is always like to not have to deal with the ODE and the constant meetings and all of that, when we could implement those changes ourselves, but I also understand, you know, where we're at. Now I can present kind of maybe 2 versions, you know, one with and one without, and then, to kind of see what the difference looks like overall on the whole forecast, and then maybe you can choose which.
Yeah,
But
I
when you
think-
develop a written plan, you don't have to implement it all right away. Correct.
You don't, but they're gonna wanna see changes depending, and again, like I said, I don't know what that number could potentially be, but they're gonna wanna see if it is the third year, what would happen if we didn't do anything next year? Is that A, we'd lose 1 year of that savings, and B, you'd have 1 year of like potentially hiring someone and then riffing someone. And so
But
you're gonna
we-
get more bang for your buck, I guess I would say,
But I got-
if you were to implement it
I
next
asked
year.
that question though, and I don't believe we are hiring people
Even without it,
in middle school or high school. I was told we weren't hiring.
What do you mean? If we,
Here, and
Well,
where are we hiring people in this model? Because I was told this was attrition. Right, so are we hiring
it depends
people?
on, it would depend on, I think the first round, it could be true. But I think what we're saying is, it's fine for this year, but the following year, when you go to reduce that, like, let's say you say, now we're not gonna do open enrollment anymore, that would result in cuts, yes. Because people would have their jobs this year. It would be fine for this
Well, we're
year,
not
but not
necessarily
next year.
hiring people and then cutting.
No, you'd be cutting people, whereas this year, attrition will
Well, we
take
wouldn't
care of
necessarily
it.
be hiring on cutting.
No, I think that's the difference. You would be
Yeah.
cutting people who have jobs now.
If I may,
Yeah.
we will be hiring one
Okay.
on the with open enrollment page, because we have four people retiring this year. And that shows a reduction. We have to replace one of those.
yeah.
Or you could get creative and look at licensure and see if there's a high school teacher you can bump down.
That often happens. Bumping will happen regardless, but it would depend on licensure. Yeah.
And again, I mean, like I said, I'm looking at it from the fiscal lens, what selfishly works best for me. But I understand that there's another side to it, but I realize that, but I do want you to just know strictly from, that's the angle that I'm coming from, and, that there is potential, which you'll see, I should have it to you by next week, so, you'll have time to kind of look at it, and I can send kind of a version with and a version without, that way you can see the impact that it has.
yeah.
Well, I think we know our financial position is not good.
Right.
We know that we may be in the red in the third year, which would require a written plan. We know that they changed the whole 5-year forecast situation. But we also know that having a written plan would not doesn't change the fact that we're going to have a levy on the ballot in November. We just don't know what that's going to look like yet. And that would not preclude us from including cutting an open enrollment in the written plan and choosing not to implement that cut until we see what the result of our levy is. Correct?
Correct.
So that's still an option.
But they're going to wanna see us be obviously in the green, and they're not gonna obviously count a new levy that hasn't
Yes.
or whatever passed. So, whatever it takes, whatever that number is, and whatever it would take for us to get to that number, is a different, that's a whole calculation of whether, cause it is cumulative. So like, if you wait a year, then obviously you're losing 1 year of that savings potentially. I feel like I was
We're
gonna
still
say something else
saving
and I
some.
don't
I
remember.
mean, we're automatically saving some.
I think what you're gonna need to see is how much we need to save. I mean, I think we can go round and round, but I
Yeah.
truly think we need to see that 5-year forecast
I
to
do
see if
too.
what kind of a difference, we know it'll make a difference, but how big of a difference, then I think the board just has to weigh that. But I really think it would be wise to wait and see that information.
Agree.
One other area where we're gonna see, not to belabor it, but it popped into my head that we're seeing a decrease is the changes to legislation on inside millage. So in October, that was in there as receiving the full, kind of, because that was not capped. We saw growth on that, and now that growth is going to be capped to kind of like the GDP and capped to inflation, basically. So, we see a decrease there already. So there's been, a couple of nothing good, unfortunately, has changed. But there's been some things that have happened that have negatively impacted not only us, but lots of other people, and lots of other people well more than us that were on the 20 mil floor and things like that, as we've talked about. That is another one, especially what's affecting it immediately is that this is a reappraisal year, so this is where you would have seen like next fiscal years where you would have start to seen kind of more that big growth on an inside millage, because it's the every 6 years, and then the in between years there's hardly anything, and then that triennial update there's some, but it's usually not as much. This is like the big increase, and now we won't be seeing that, so that's going to immediately impact those first couple years is where that runs into as well.
That brings us to item E, Treasurer CFO's business consent agenda. Ms. Stoikoi.
Yes. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve all items listed in the treasurer's consent agenda.
So moved.
Discussion.
Yes, so we have the 2 minutes, and the donations. Just one donation from crowdfunding at Richardson, so always Richardson does a good job.
Any questions or comments from the board? Please call the roll.
Mr. Harris? Aye. Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmerman?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye. This is item F, Treasurer CFO's business and comments.
I do not have anything this evening, other than we wrapped up the exit conference for the audit today, and I didn't know if anybody has any questions, but we received a clean, unmodified opinion, and so everything went well. They had a couple recommendations, but other than that, we are all good to go on that. So if anybody has any questions, please let me know, but
And I could put out unmodified is good.
yes, unmodified is good, as Ryan said, yes. So, and actually, that was, Mr. Gomez, you had asked before what year we were in. That was actually our 5th year. I was thinking it was before that. But the state did reach out about extending that for the other 5-year period, which I assume they would. So you'll see that contract at some point over the next month or so. I just need to talk with them, and then it's got to go through the state and stuff. But yes, so we will be staying with Julian and Group for the next 5 years.
Thank you. This is item G, Superintendent CEO's business consent agenda. Dr. Selico.
Thank you. It is recommended that the Board of Education approves all items listed in the superintendent's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion.
Yes, routine items for our personnel, some classified appointments. We have some coaches for spring sports, a couple volunteers for some sports, and some leaves of absences there. And then I would also like to recommend to you this evening an appointment of an administrator, and with that, some transition days as customary when we hire a new administrator. So this evening, Ms. Bird is with us, and I'd just like to tell you a little bit about her. We are excited to, hopefully, if per your approval, welcome Alyssa Bird to our administrative team. She is being recommended for the preschool through 12th grade curriculum coordinator position. Ms. Bird comes to us with 10 years of classroom teaching experience and 4 years as a K-12 ELA literacy consultant with the Summit County Summit Educational Service Center, and she is a state-trained, high-quality instructional materials specialist, a local letters facilitator, a certified state dyslexia facilitator, and a reading tiered fidelity inventory facilitator. Mrs. White's going to be excited over there.
Yes.
Ms. Bird earned a Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Education from Kent State University and a Master's in Reading and Literacy from Walsh University. Ms. Bird is thrilled that she will be serving the district and community of the Falls, as she is a local resident who currently has a daughter that attends Richardson.
All right.
And they are so cute, and they are
Oh,
back
they
there.
are.
So,
Wonderful.
Son old enough for preschool?
almost. Miss Bird, how old's your son? 3. Yeah, ready for preschool then.
Yep.
Yeah,
Ready for Cuyahoga Falls Pre-K?
yeah.
Yes.
Right, Mrs. Zima?
There we go, we've recruited one. Thank you, that's all I have.
Any questions or comments from the board? We're excited to welcome you to our Black Tiger family, not just as a mom, which is very important, but as an employee and important in our department with Mrs. Hausman, who's very excited and ready to record you. Oh, okay. So we'll call the roll and then we'll let you talk. Okay,
Thank you.
Ms. Stoichkoi?
Mrs. Schaefer? Aye. Ms. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmerman?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Thank you, everyone. Cuyahoga Falls, is this okay? I'm very short. Cuyahoga Falls has been my home for the past 14 years. For 10 of those years, I worked in Ravenna City Schools, where I gained my teaching experience, my passion for leadership, coaching, and built a strong instructional foundation that allows me to take initiatives and make them, realistic, attainable, and sustainable. Over the last 4 years, okay, we'll fix it soon. Over the last 4 years, I've had the opportunity to work across more than 13 districts, K to 12, supporting initiatives, building meaningful relationships, and designing the professional learning that I facilitate. Cuyahoga Falls was actually the very first district that I worked in as I began my career as an ELA consultant. So this truly feels like a full circle moment for me. And now my personal life and my career are aligning in a really special way. My daughter has started kindergarten at Richardson Elementary, and I've had the privilege of witnessing firsthand the incredible impact Cuyahoga Falls educators and administrators have already had on her. I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to invest my future years in this community. So thank you very much.
And we know it's been a long wait for the children, so we won't have hurt feelings if you were to leave now. So we are happy to have you. And
It's coming to
yeah,
get her anyway.
so cute.
Come on, Mom.
We went to Richardson.
Cute. He's so cute. No.
No.
She can regale Jody with her commute stories every day.
Yeah, really.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, congratulations and welcome.
So as you are aware, she will be replacing Julie Dudones. This isn't an additional position, this is a replacement. That's it. Thank you.
As Jody drives 45 minutes to an hour every day, she'll be like,
Yeah.
took me about 3 minutes to get here.
Right.
Maybe 5 if she has to wait for a train.
Yeah. And that happens on that broad avenue.
It brings us to item H, your comments, Dr. Salko.
Thank you. Several things I just want to address this evening. As you know, we have been, I was asked to provide maybe a little update on the high school. We've been spending a lot of time at the old high school. I asked Mr. Bugatti if he's to be ready if you have any specific questions, but I saw Bernie and Mason today fabulous workers of ours at Richardson, and I was picking their brain a little bit and asking them what's going on with the high school. They said that there were 4 to 5 more leaks that happened. Mason seems to think there's up to, about 24 leaks that we've had. So they keep,
When were those latest ones?
where?
When were those latest ones?
Just recently.
Just
Yes, yeah. There was one a couple days ago, then they were doing well, and then they had a couple more. But he's, and I was getting, it hasn't changed, like, what has still preserved, meaning the auditorium's still okay, cafeteria just got a little bit, library's okay, so it's really, he said, the 100s to the 200s, and then like some of the 500s, so that's where it's starting to happen. Gandy, I believe, was there yesterday, so we might be able to provide you with some insight there. Mr. Gomez, you had asked about the structural integrity. I just asked the gentleman. They didn't feel that there was anything that we had to worry about roofs caving in or, ceilings yet, but certainly there are.
The roof in the old building
Yeah.
is strong. It's got like a foot plus of concrete.
Yeah, yeah. It's not going
We
anywhere,
know
huh?
that. We did those roof assessments with Mr. Scotty.
Yeah. So we did move the CTE program. We talked about our auto tech. So we're in the process of making that happen. Hudson is being very helpful, and they're going to do some, Mrs. Hausman and Ms. Kolich are working on some final details of how that transition will take place. But the students were able to be relocated at the new campus here for their coursework. So that's been a smooth transition. And wrestling is taking care of itself. That's coming to a close here soon. There's a tournament this weekend, but it'll be at the new campus. So that was really where we're at. I know we talked about shutting it down completely. They had some feedback there that, again, if we do that, I think maybe in the long run, as things go to thaw out, there could be some damage there, but
You're not talking about shutting down the building completely because
the
the building's
water.
closed, but you mean
it is.
the water.
The water, sorry, yes. So there's domestic water, and then, I'm getting all these details today. I'm like trying to keep track. I'm like, okay, domestic water, and then the others. So you could keep the boilers going, and I guess it wouldn't impact necessarily. So I will stop there because that's about the extent of my knowledge. But Mr. Bugatti, do you want to come and provide some more detail?
I think Andy was going to give an opinion about mold as well.
Yes, and I
weren't they?
believe
Yeah.
the gentleman
Which
started
I
to
know
tell me
was
that.
one of our concerns as
Bless you.
before.
Yes.
So, good evening, everyone. I did have a chance to put some notes down on my phone, so if you see me looking down, it's not texted from my wife, so, which I have to answer as well. We have had 27 leaks to date. The latest ones we've had were yesterday, we had 4. We've had none today. I did walk the building with Aaron Strasberg. Aaron Strasberg is with Gandy and Associates, who is doing the remediation of the asbestos at Bolick. And they also do all of our work within the district. They're our environmental engineer. So I asked Todd Harrison if we could borrow Aaron Strasberg for a while. So him and I did go through the high school yesterday. Truthfully, he was not as concerned as he thought he might be. The areas where he saw that were damage done, there wasn't much asbestos in those areas. I think a larger concern that he had was making sure that we block off those areas if we do have an auction, and those, no matter what's in there, we don't even walk by those areas. We just don't do anything. We don't try to clean anything. We don't do any of that. We just walk by, just to make sure. I think a big part of his concern was mildew, mold. He recommended do not shut the building down as much as we would love to at this time, but mold, mildew, it grows quickly with cold temperatures. So he said he would do everything he possibly could to keep those boilers running and just repair the leaks as we go. Hopefully, even with today being a warm day, or yesterday being a warmer day, hopefully we're beyond that. And I say that all the time, and Dr. Selgo looks at me like I'm crazy, I think, sometimes. But we always end up, we didn't have any today, which I'm going to be very positive about. Hopefully, this will be the last of it. But we've had it in the 100s, 200s, 300s. There isn't a place besides the 700s we have not had a leak in that building. The auditorium, gymnasium, we've had some stuff flow into the gymnasium, but at the end of the day, he recommends keep heat to the building so we don't grow any mold. There was one room we walked in, you could actually smell the mold. So the other areas, I'm sure, have started maybe some growth. he is going to do a little report for us and get it out to me, and I'll share it with Dr. Silico, and I'm sure she'll share it with the board as well. That's pretty much it as far as my walkthrough with, we spent about an hour in the building. Pretty much my walkthrough with them. I did speak to our insurance company as well. When you make a claim, it should be made, as you could imagine, in a timely manner. Well, Sarah understands why we're not trying to make a claim at this particular moment, and she recommends we don't if the building's going to be demoed because of the cost to insure ratio. It would go against our current cost as far as claims, and we cannot have that. We are on the line right now with claims because they go back years. This would be a very, very big claim. I don't even want to guess as to what the dollar amount would be for the insurance company. So she recommends if we're going to sell the building and it's going to be demoed, to not do anything as far as a claim goes. She also recommended closing off the damaged areas, making sure that no one could go through, maybe something from a ceiling fall down, trip over something that's currently on the floor. Next, I would say the auction. Let's talk about the auction. We could have an auctioneer go through the building, not in those areas, take pictures of items that we would like to auction off, put those on the website, auction it from the website that way, not allow anybody in to see anything. If someone bought a refrigerator and had a dent in it, and they got there to pick it up and they didn't want it because it had the dent, maybe the picture didn't show it, we would just give them their money back. We just wouldn't make them take it. That way we would limit how many people were in the building for how long. They would only be in the building for one time. That's if you choose to move forward with the auction. It's something the board would have to decide.
I would just want to see the report from Gandy first, because I'm concerned about what could be growing in that building and what we'd be exposing people to before we make a final decision on that. So I'm interested in seeing that report, just because I don't want to potentially expose multiple people to things that could be growing in there.
Yeah, know that the report is not going to contain data or information. Yeah. It's going to his best, from an environmental engineer standpoint, recommendations, or what he expects to be seen. Again, we walked into a room and it was terrible. You could smell it right away. There are areas that we're sure mold is going to grow or has been growing because, remember, with all these pipes breaking, the boilers go down. So the building temperature has been very, very low. So just getting the boilers back up and running to heat the facility, we're starting to get the facility up to close to temperature. But when we do that, we've had pipes break. So he's sure, and I'm sure, that there's mold growing throughout the facility. I don't know if there's, my personal opinion, I don't know if there's anything in that building valued enough if we're worried about liability and risk about putting people in the building.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see that report before.
Yep.
And I don't think if they're able, I don't know if they're able to answer this question, but one of the curiosities they have, number one, I learned today that, from Mason, and that heat does not create the mold, cool temperatures, and I was very surprised by that. I thought it was the opposite, so that.
No, that's exactly what he said when we
Yeah,
walked through.
I'm
That's why he
surprised to hear that.
recommended keeping it on.
Yeah.
It's the cool, damp.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that.
Yes.
But I'm more curious about, like, exposure, this isn't my area, exposure to mold. So if you come in and out and you only see it in passing for half an hour, is there any damage? Versus people staying in that room for hours and hours, which we know will never happen, but like, or even our workers, of course, we're concerned about their safety. But the difference between that, because if you're doing an auction, someone just literally comes in to say, okay, I'll take that, and it's 15 minutes. Is there any danger in that? I don't know the answer to that. I'm gonna assume not, but I'm not the person to say that, officially, so.
You know that he did this as a quick favor for us. He came down from Bolick. It wasn't something that, wasn't something that he's putting a nice report together for us. I have not seen it. I would hope I would see it this week, and then I'll share it, and we can, go from there. I can certainly go back to Todd and ask for more in-depth if we really need to do that, something more formal. But we walked through and looked in nearly every single room, certainly every area of the building, and I think he got a real good handle for what we're looking at.
Yeah, and, I mean, we can move off of it, but I was just saying, the different kind of spores and molds, like, there are some that are really harmful, and there are others that are, I just don't know. So I think, there are other companies that specialize in that, certainly, that environmental studies that they could do. But I don't know that we're there yet, but let's start with Gandy. I'll certainly share that with the board.
That's what I'm curious whether there's some fairly simple treatment, like a spray or something that can kind of arrest the, I don't know. That's the kind of thing I would be curious about.
I think at the end of the day, what he would recommend is any area that was wet at one point in time, you stay away from. And I think he feels really comfortable that if we would stay away from those areas because of the mold, possible mold growing, and the asbestos, that we would be okay.
I hate to see things go to waste that could be used again, but I also don't want people to be at
Yes.
risk. So
Right.
I'm not planning on making a huge amount of money from selling things, but if somebody can take something and use it, it safely.
Yep.
I'd like to see the Gandy report, and personally, after seeing that, I might want to go see the situation myself. And that would be helpful, but I don't know if I want to. I have a lot
Too
of,
sad.
I have a lot of emotions attached to that, but I think that might help me, and help me understand more.
Sure.
Because when we're saying things that did and didn't get wet and stuff.
Yeah, it helped me when I went there, to be honest.
Yeah.
To assess it a little better.
Because I know there are a lot of people that would love to have a piece of something, but at the same time, we have to be responsible.
Yeah, and I don't know if that would, because of the asbestos, even only in certain areas, and possible mold, mildew growing, if that would, we would need a waiver, or we would have to probably talk to legal if you really wanted to cover all bases, to see what, we just couldn't say, okay, you can just go in, because you won't be in those areas, and then have someone come back, and my lungs have not felt the same since I've been in that building. That's what my concern would be.
Yeah.
So we'd have to really look at legal, I would
Or is it
recommend.
just like,
Right.
hey, there's some smaller stuff we can salvage. Let's do it like sale. Let's have a yard sale. Everything's $1.
Yeah, maybe. do
Yeah.
that.
Maybe that's the
Right.
route we go. So,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll take one step at a time.
Yeah.
Start with
Yep.
Gandy, we'll give you that information. If the board desires more information, we certainly can do that too.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you,
Thank you.
Joe. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, a couple more things, just quick ones. Was here for the opening of the One Act. I know a couple of you were here
Where
as
did you
well.
sit?
That's always
I'm
fun.
very intrigued by it.
Where did I sit?
I sat in the balcony.
I was over here. I was supposed to sit right there, but I felt like I was gonna be sitting on top of our families over there. I said, it was really odd. It was like one seat, and they were like, we were wondering who this one seat was for. I said, well, so I moved over, because that night there weren't as many people. So then I moved over.
I saw Ms. Coco here, but
Yeah.
she was sitting in the bad lake room area.
I
So
think I'm gonna try that
I
next
gave her the good tip of where the bad leg room is.
Yeah, so that was very enjoyable. We also had the spelling bee, the middle school spelling bee, so that was fun to attend. And I realized I am not smarter than a middle school child who can spell words that I could not. I was like, what? I don't even know what that word is. I gotta Google it. I have a funny story I'll tell you another time about Miss Hausman, but I will save it for another, not for a public, but it was enjoyable. We sat there together. But yes, but Noah won, and congratulations to him and the others that were up there. It takes such courage to get up there. We also had a Power of the Pen winner. And the same day that our children were participating, my own child was participating in Power of the Pen. But I was excited because I thought we would be against each other, but we weren't. We were in two different locations. My child did not place, but that's okay. I'm proud of her anyway. But yes, we had a first place winner, which is great. That's not easy to do. So Mrs. Belka was there and filled me in. I was getting blow by blow, so that was very exciting. We also wanted to just point out that we have the shuttle going. I've been kind of providing you guys with updates. We're up to, I think the most we had was 24 one day, so it's growing. We are offering that as a solution to parents who are frustrated with our arrival process. So certainly an option for parents if they don't want to wait in the line. All you have to do is drop your child off, they get right on the bus, and we shuttle them over. It's been very smooth. There's been absolutely no issues whatsoever. So it's been a nice, easy option for parents. I myself would exercise that right to do that and say, bye, have a good day, and then I'm heading out. So we encourage more parents to take advantage, and it will, our line is going better. Now, there's like blips in the radar, like the one day we had a bad weather day, and it was cold, and so a lot of people were taking their students, and it was a day where people weren't necessarily following the directions, and so what happens? We get a delay. So when people are on it and we're following directions and things are running smoothly, it's gotten a lot better to the point where it's maybe 1 minute the children were coming in tardy. Again, we anticipate it's getting better once spring hits. Are hopeful that more students will walk, less car riders, maybe bike riders, etc. But overall, we're doing really well. Lastly, I want to talk about the portrait of a graduate, and maybe Mrs. Schaefer, would you like to talk about it at your turn, or? Okay, I'll just give a quick recap that we had our third meeting yesterday. I'm sorry, what is today? Yes, it was yesterday. And so grateful to our partners, community partners and parents. We had another great turnout. We averaged probably 30 to 32 in all 3 of the sessions. We came down to our 6 competencies that we've chosen. I won't tell you, it's a cliffhanger. But we still have steps ahead. We did start the graphic design portion, and so we've gotten feedback from the different groups and what they would like to see in that graphic. We had our 2 art teachers there, Mrs. Schulman, Mr. Smith, and an art student who I think wants to be part of that, which I thought was really cool. And so I will be meeting with them with next steps once Mr. Ferguson is going to compile all that, and I'll share it with you. The findings and the results and what people are looking for, and then we'll go from there. So we're much closer to completion than we were, but please recognize that there's a few more steps that have to take place, and also some definitions of the 6 competencies. Like we saw an example, like maybe 6 paws with what the word is and then the definition for people to see. So if that's something that the board desires, it takes us a little work to design. Well, that was an example. That was what someone used, yeah. So.
Tigers don't have 6 paws.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at, and I'll let if Ms. Schaefer wants to share it when it's her go-around, to share her feedback, because I know she was very positive about it, but I walked away really, really excited about it. I was not sure how that was going to go, and I thought Mr. Ferguson did a very nice job. Very impressed.
Was there a reason why it was 6?
I think that was the consensus of the group, because we got to 5 and we had some discussion. Because some people have 7 and 9, and he tried to get us to stay at 5, but recognizing that we could choose more if we wanted to.
I think
I don't,
that
did
we
you?
understood that, the group understood that it could change to either some ideas being grouped together differently, or something being merged together, so it doesn't have to stay 6. But those were the ideas that were important to the group.
Yeah. Some of them
I agree.
we've kind of
Yeah, I would
stacked,
agree.
because they were similar, but then we
Yeah.
couldn't reach agreement, because we felt like some were too different, like curiosity and creativity, they were too different, so we had a lot of discussion about that. Does empathy fit under emotional intelligence? So those kind of discussions, so. But great experience, I'm glad you pushed us to do that. And then lastly, I think, yes, just wanted to mention on a sad note, one of our DeWitt teachers who recently resigned, passed away, Cindy Wagner. So just keep her and your family in your thoughts. That will take place, the arrangements are next Friday. So just please keep her in your thoughts, and always a sad time when we lose a member of our family, so. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Selko. Here's the item I, board business. Number 1 is a resolution, OHSAA. It's recommended the Board of Education approves the resolution to allow the Cuyahoga Falls City School District to participate in the Ohio High School Athletic Association.
So moved.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmerman?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris? Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Thank you. Number 2 is memorandum of understanding with the Cuyahoga Falls Education Association. It's recommended the Board of Education approves the memorandum of understanding between the Cuyahoga Falls Education Association and the Cuyahoga Falls City School District.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This is, we've had educators voluntarily helping in the mornings at the 612 building with drop-off process. This is to compensate them to continue that. process to make sure we always have folks out there to keep that process going smoothly. This is just for the drop-off process.
For the rest of this year.
Yes. Everybody clear on that? I will say, I shared this at agenda review. I think this is great, and I'm gonna absolutely support it. I do think that since we're compensating folks for this, one of the things that I've heard a lot of from our families that would help them is if we open the building earlier, and the reason we don't open the building earlier is because we don't have folks on duty, outside of breakfast to monitor the students. So while I think this is great, I'm actually gonna support it because it's important. I think we could have gone an additional step and compensated a few folks to also monitor inside the building, because I think that would also further alleviate the issue as well. So I just want to mention that. Okay. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Zimmerman?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer? Ms. White?
Aye.
Thank you.
Number 3 is resolution sale of property. To recommend the Board of Education approves the resolution authorizing the Cuyahoga Falls City School District to enter a purchase agreement of real estate to the city of Cuyahoga Falls.
So moved.
Second.
Do you want to give the most recent update, and then I'll give my opinion that we should still do this?
Okay. So this is, if you recall, the board made contingent upon the sale of that Thomas Court parcel, that it would be contingent upon the tennis courts and us handing that over. And then there's been some developments that it was considering maybe more in our best interest to keep the tennis courts, because we have a potential buyer for our cell tower, and things are just really enmeshed, and so we're trying to tease that out. But, so this is a resolution saying that this would approve the sale of the property, and it supersedes with the action that you took before. And just to add one other piece that you'll see in here, we also have already done our due diligence. We had to, actually, I did not know this and think about it because it's a parcel. We had to go to Shanae and say, are you interested in this, because they're a community school? And I said, you can build a one-room schoolhouse on that lot of land, should you desire. And he just said, give me that thing, and he signed it. And so that was, we had to do that extra step, so I just wanted to mention that. But essentially, that's what this is. And then the idea is the next board meeting, you would actually have that purchase agreement.
I think knowing there's some movement on the city side for or against this, I think it still authorizes the property to be sold. It approves that community school provision. It puts us in a good position, and it also shows we're trying to do our end of the deal regardless of what the city's trying to do. This has been a 2-year fiasco with a lot of broken promises from the city of doing what is right for our students. The city has always maintained those tennis courts. They've always maintained playgrounds on the elementary schools within Cuyahoga Falls. The fact that there seems to be a desire on their end to change that without telling us that they want to change that is very disappointing. But I think we should continue forward in good faith on our end and doing everything we can to work with them, and so that if we can get them to do what they have promised for 2 years to do, we are set on our end for that to happen. So that's how I feel, in the nicest way to say it.
What was the original timeline for the tennis courts?
Which part of it?
For summer? They were gonna-
To fix them?
Yeah, to
Yes,
fix
they were
them
supposed to
for
start in May.
summer. Do you think that would be impacted?
They were supposed to vote on that next week, but it's in their budget, so they had
Okay,
to
so it is
budget for it.
budgeted, okay.
That's been now postponed.
Well, the original timeline is that they should have already done it.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about the original timeline that they
Right.
promised us.
Right.
But where we're at
Sorry.
right now, there is proposed,
For
and it's
this
in their
year.
budget to be voted on, or to be, it's
They
currently
were,
in their
they
budget.
would have to vote on that appropriation of the 225,000.
So it's not currently in their budget.
It is in the budget.
There.
So the city, the Parks and Rec Board approves a budget, because they're a separate entity under the Ohio Revised Code. and then they send their budget to city council approves the budget, and then anything that they budget for then still has to come to council for approval. Most of what city council does all year is approve things they already approved in the budget.
So the director of Park and Recs reports to city council or the mayor?
Ask the mayor.
All right.
Okay.
I was just, so if there was a concern, then who would be the person that we would
What's the
speak to?
concern about? Just
About
it
the
getting done?
Because we have kids that
Yeah.
are, students that are waiting for these tennis
Yeah,
courts.
I have shared my opinion.
Because they're
Yes.
contacting us.
I have shared my opinion and concern with the mayor.
Okay, so he's
So
aware.
he's aware.
Okay,
I'm setting up a meeting with the president of city council as well.
okay, that's fair. That's fair, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Anything further? Please call the roll.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris? Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmerman?
Aye.
Thank you. Number 4 is future agenda items. Do you have any additional future agenda items to come before the board?
Would you like me to share with you, I was just looking that up right now, what we have on the agenda thus far?
Sure.
So February 25th, we have the teaming models presentation.
I think we already did that.
Do you feel that's sufficient, what we heard from tonight? It was on there, but we certainly can, okay, all right,
Is there
hey.
more?
Is there more?
Open,
There's more.
Is there more?
Oh, it wasn't the teaming models. It was
do you want to know about the student?
it was the plan. It's the implementation plan.
Yeah,
The
I think,
3-year implementation
yes,
plan.
yes.
It's not the
Chris had it
models,
in
it's
his,
the
yeah.
implementation plan.
Chris noted
There
it
we
as
go,
teaming
we got
models,
there.
so,
Yes.
okay. All right, so that's February 25th. March 4th was teacher clarity is what, I'm just reading what Chris has in here so far. So that was March 4th, and then nothing on March, because it's the Top Tigers, the second meeting. We
For
don't
the
have anything.
second meeting in March, can we talk about, in Friday notes, there's information about the plan for students that are being relocated to visit their buildings. But can we have discussion about that? Because we
Sure.
said we revisit at a board meeting.
Okay, got it.
And when do we need to revisit open enrollment?
I think we said we were gonna talk about it at the next meeting.
Okay, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Number 5, committee reports. Ms. White, I said last month, I said, I'm just gonna go member by member this year. We're gonna try this
okay.
out. And then you'll just report on whatever.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, so I'll call on you first.
Alrighty, well,
What
the
committee
core
reports
team,
do you have?
yeah, the core team met on the 3rd, and they're just going through punch lists, basically. I'm not gonna read all of it. But there are some things that we're still looking at, such as a podium is missing in the middle school room, and lockers in the middle school have a little gap at the top, which we can probably put some molding or something like that on it. Things like that are just change orders for spring or summer for the additional lockers. The bookshelves for the media center are still, there's still something going on there. They've been submitted and they'll be released in an estimated ship time of 3/27. So, but a lot of good things are going to, like the fire and egress signage that's submitted in Oaks. The projector location, we're moving it from one side of the room to the other because the desks are facing that side. So there's a few little things, but mostly it's just really kind of going through everything and the punch lists and so on. The gas, the abatement for Bolick will start on 3/12, the gas shut-off, electric shut-off will be the 13th, and we don't know about the water yet. And then there's a little thing with the fiber line there that can be cut back to the street. So that's per our district. And then we're going to try to get that class rock that's at the old high school to the new one. So we'll see how that goes, hopefully. And I think, yeah, the press box going, the pole outside the press box, we're going to lower it. So
Tiger Lane.
Tiger Lane.
Oh my gosh, Mr. Schaefer, you're always
Oh,
pushing it.
I
I was
don't
so
know.
happy to tell you that we got the rock
I'm
moved.
so excited
Yeah.
about that rock.
Hammond is actually, I asked Hammond, and I just said, hey, crazy question, but can you move the rock? And they're so kind enough to do
Yes,
that.
they did say they would move
I'm in love
it.
with that, thank you so much. I've actually had
Yes.
many people ask me about that rock.
Yeah,
too.
they're going to
Yes.
move it,
We're
so
making it
that's.
happen.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We
Yeah,
just have to pick a
good
location.
thing. So I think that's about all. We'll do the closeout process in Oaks when the parking lot is finally done. And that was pretty much, it's just basically wrapping up a lot of odds and ends and things, you know, that came up in the punch list that weren't quite right. The DLT did not meet, but the Student Learning Committee met for the strategic plan. And basically, we talked about the we went over tier levels, tier 1, 2, 3, the academics, and we looked at kind of student engagement and what we need to think of or kind of do with that. And we came up with some ideas like math clubs. There's one at, I think, was it Richardson? Yeah, and expanding, Lincoln, I'm sorry. And then math clubs that could expand to like the other elementary buildings. Student choice and depth instead of breadth. Breadth was mentioned. So we just are kind of getting started on that. And Ms. Hausman explained how, you know, we're looking at the foundation, the core skills, and then how do we get the kids engaged? We also talked a little bit about teacher clarity as well. And then how do we use data, what do we focus on, and the key data points to focus on. So that was that committee. We will have a gifted committee on Tuesday, and then Thursday morning, the DLT team will be meeting.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Ms.
Do you want me to
Zimmer-
do just committee reports right
Yeah.
now? Okay.
Ms. Zimmerman, committees?
Sure, so I haven't done financial advisory yet, but it's coming. I did go to the Foundation and Alumni Association last night, my first committee meeting. They were very nice, interesting. I'm learning a lot. I'm not an alumni from here, but this is the group where you are gonna get all the info, the inside info. So, let's see, they were talking about, they had a lot of business. They are making a video tour of the old high school. So they had the filmmaker come and show like a draft of it. And it's really nice that we have that now, considering the current situation. But it looks very nice, and he had a drone flying all through it. And they had some suggestions, so
That's cool.
it's gonna be on YouTube and on their website. They had like 69 scholarship applications, and so they talked about that a little. They said that the quality of the essays are maybe not as good as they have been. So one thing we talked about a little is whether we could have like an essay writing workshop or a resume workshop for students. I don't know if that would be, who would go, if they would even go to it, or how that would happen, but be something we could consider offering or somehow.
I think they start working on those resumes in like middle school.
Maybe they already do that, I don't know, but.
We
but
used to.
just-
I don't know that we do.
I think with
I don't know if I
AI, they're just feeding things into AI and getting like a
Yeah,
really
yeah.
generic, not personal
Right.
essay, and that doesn't really grab anyone. So, anyway,
Yeah.
I think that they're gonna redo their website, so pretty much the highlights. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
Yeah, I have a few. I was unable to make it to the last couple Business Alliance Council meetings, so I will let Ms. Schaefer take that. But as it relates to legislative updates, House is back. A lot of hearings, testimony going on. Senate Bill 19, that's the requires districts and schools to develop a mathematics improvement monitoring plan. House Bill 189, which would create a behavioral threat management operational process for public and chartered non-public schools. There are also hearing testimony on House Bill 413, which would create the Ohio Local government expenditure database requiring political subdivisions and retirement systems to participate in the database. House Bill 113 to modify the law regarding annexation and residential community reinvestment, property tax exemptions, and then that Blue Ribbon Committee as well that I mentioned in the past. A couple that have been reintroduced, that have been introduced, and Dr. South, I think you just sent something out on House Bill 671, which would allow the Department of Education to withhold state funding from districts who are a part of the voucher lawsuit. That doesn't really impact us. House Bill 523, that would make paying student teachers optional, and then House Bill 661 would ban Ohio High School Athletic Association policy that allows middle and high school students to earn money from a business that uses their name, their image, and their likeness. So, and then a couple things I'm monitoring. Senate Bill 156, which is that success sequence, would require schools to teach students to graduate high school, to get a job, to get married, in that order, before having a baby. And then Senate Bill 19, academic intervention, would allow students who scored below proficient on the state assessment test in math or English to receive academic intervention at no cost for that. And then I also have a note here, ROAR is going to be coming out soon. It's out?
It's in the printer.
Okay. I looked over that. Ms. Stoikoy, if you, the folks out there, check out Ms. Stoikoy's section.
Yeah, I have it.
Read it all.
I have
But
it.
really, yes,
I do.
really
I was
look at
going
Ms.
to bring that
Stoikoy's
up too.
section.
Yes.
She, really does a good job at explaining why we're in the situation we're in, and why we're kind of being backed into the corner, by the state legislature. So please check that out.
Yes.
And she does a really, really good job explaining why we're having to make some of the decisions we're having to make up here. So.
I'll go next. Policy Committee is meeting next Wednesday. Mr. Schaefer.
Okay, and then District Wellness Committee will be meeting them the following week. And I just wanted to mention a couple more things about the graduate portrait of a tiger. I worked in a group, so I've worked at 3 different groups for each time, so I got to work with different people each time. This last one, we are working on the image and what we wanted to do for the image. And that got to be kind of a little bit creative. And I worked with some very poetic people. So they said, we have like the river going through, and then, Silver Lake. So it's like there's water, and there's like the parks and everything in our area. So they said education is like water. River is like a journey, and so is education. It's transformative and dynamic, flexible. The rocks, one of the competencies in the rocks, everything can change. These were their suggestions. The competencies be in the rocks, and they would be like the bedrocks of education. And then one group even had the rocks to be like tiger paws, which I thought was kind of cool. We talked about, it was neat too to have everyone in the group, because you think about, this is what I'd like to have, the imagery I'd like to see. But then Miss Stewart brought up, like, hey, think about like how that's going to look in print, and how it's going to look on the website, how it's going to look when it's really tiny on your phone, how it's, and things that I might not have thought about when we're designing it. And then how it's going to replace the shield, which is tiny also, but we want to improve on that. So like things to think about. We had a great mix of community, business, educators, administrators, parents, and students. And everyone was excited, involved, and everyone wanted their voice heard. Everyone was talking, and everyone was offering input, which I thought was really neat. We talked about the local landmarks and the richness of the local parks, and then also using black and gold in the design. And then some people were like, well, don't use too much black and gold because we have those parks and the river, maybe it should be blue and it should be green. So there was like so many suggestions, and good luck, artists. Here's what we like. Good luck. But I had a good time. It was neat to hear all the opinions, and there was a lot of different opinions, and no one got mad. No one talked down to anyone. Everyone listened to the opinions and offered input. It was a great experience. I enjoyed it. So,
Brings us to number 6, comments. You're up first, Mrs. Schaefer.
I don't have any additional comments.
Okay, Mrs. White.
Yes, I have a couple of things. I wanted to congratulate our finance, our treasurer and department for a wonderful audit. Again, nothing there, it was clean, and so thank you very much for that hard work. And I also, like Mr. Harris, I pulled that because I'm not very good at math or finances, as everybody knows, but this article was so well done, especially the part, the numbers don't lie. Ohio has shifted the burden to you, taxpayers. Over the past 20 years, Ohio's share of K-12 education funding has dropped dramatically, falling from nearly 45% to 33.5%, placing Ohio among the lowest states in the nation. While Ohio ranks around 20th nationally in per pupil spending, a growing portion of that funding now comes from local property taxes rather than state support. This trend is especially evident locally. In 2002, state funding accounted for just over 40% of the district's operating revenue. By 27-28, the state's contribution is projected to fall to 10%. And so on. So yes, I read this and it was very clear in wonderful, understandable language for everybody, and I would highly recommend everybody pay attention to that. It really explains how the state has let us down time and time again after the Roth decision that said they could not rely on local or property taxes, and I can't even remember when that was passed, 1999 or something, and they still have not done that. Oh well. I do have an article today that I'd like to read, some of it, not all of it, but it is called Supercharge Intervention and Motivate Struggling Learners, but I think it also applies to all learners. There are 5 best practices to energize students and help them catch up, but I think, again, it goes to all students. Number 1 is direct instruction that offers multiple explanations. Effective intervention requires direct instruction by a teacher who presents the material or skill not yet mastered in different ways. Students might need the same concept explained 2 or even 3 different ways before it makes sense to them. Presenting material in multiple ways pertains not only to mastery, but also to engagement. A student who finally encounters an explanation that does make sense lights up. Number 2, instruction that targets specific skill and knowledge gaps. Again, targeted instruction that zeroes in on the most important skills and concepts, the power standards that each struggling learner has yet to master. The third one, focused instruction that goes deep, not wide. Again, that is the depth, not breadth. It's about engagement, and when intervention goes deep, students get to experience success in one domain. Depth leads to mastery and keeps students invested. Number 4, visible progress monitoring by skill. I don't really have anything there because obviously you just monitor them by where they're, what the data shows and what skills they're meeting and what they're not. Number 5, a plan for student engagement. Make the content relevant. And again, this is why we talk about student choice. If they can choose topics to do projects or to write about, it makes a lot of difference. Celebrate success. We don't often do that enough. I know as a teacher, I didn't always call parents or talk to them and say, yay, your kid's such a good student. You know, I didn't do that enough, and we need to start doing that more. And the one thing that I learned very much was know kids as people, not just as students. And then make intervention an actual course, which we kind of do, but, you know, you can't do everything. You know, and there are some softwares that can support this. I wanted to read those things because I believe that we are moving in the right direction academically. And of course, as a former teacher, to me it's very important that we get our kids up and even beyond proficient. I want to see this school become the best. And I think with the new building and the way that we set up the teaming that we talked about at our meeting the other day is just amazing how teachers have more time, they can collaborate, and they can integrate the learning. I think we'll get there with the depth. I know I always like to do it now. I want everything done now, but I know it takes time. But I think the teachers are really investing in the clarity and to build the curriculum so that we can get our students up to be the best again in this area. And I'm not going to be here much longer, about a year or so. But I want the teachers to know, and the administrators that are working, how proud and wonderful I think they are for doing this job. It's a hard job, and it makes a lot of difference when they can collaborate with each other. And I think they're on the right track. I hope that a few years from now, they come back and tell this old lady, we're there. That's what I want to see. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. White. Mrs. Zimmerman?
Sorry.
No, that was good. So first of all, Mr. Gomez, I was calling you by your first name, which is not what we're supposed to do. So I will try to remember. Mr. Gomez, Mr. Harris.
I did too.
So I made a rookie mistake, and I wanted to go to the one-act plays and didn't buy my tickets in advance, and it was sold out,
Oh.
which I'm glad that it was very successful, and they sold their tickets, and I will buy my tickets in advance next time. I'm going to volunteer at the book fair Friday. I love book fairs, and so I'm excited about that, and I'm going to be at the unified basketball game here at the high school. That's Friday. Yep. So we're all invited. It's in the morning, and then I also observed drop off on Thursday morning, and they were done at 7:56. So
That's good.
I mean, I was going to observe, something, expecting, chaos, but it went really well. So, yeah, that's my update.
Thank you. I'm up next. I was able to go to the one-act plays. I was only able to stay for the first two, but they were very good, and they made very good use of this space. I sat up in the balcony. I also went to Lincoln Bingo Night last Friday, which was a lot of fun. They had great turnout, and they do their book fair starting that night as well, so families can go with their kiddos. And I don't know if anyone saw this, but the governor released a map about career technical education and the percentage of students in every district that are enrolled in career technical education. He's really honing in specifically on Northeast Ohio, saying that he does not believe there are enough opportunities for career technical education in Northeast Ohio, and the map shows that as well. Which if they want to push funding into Northeast Ohio for that, I would very much encourage. But I think it also, if you look at the 6 districts on that map, all of them are very low in enrollment. And I think that also reflects one of my complaints about being a compact, is that it's the only version of CTE education that the board gets no say in the administration of CTE. And unfortunately, I think we have very poor leadership in the 6th District Compact, and it's shown recently in our issue with our auto tech students. Dr. Selico called Mary Jane Stankina, and she was absolutely no help. She is the leader of the 6th District Compact. It is her job to get those students where they need to be. She should have been leading those conversations. It's extremely disappointing to me as the president of a board in one of those 6 districts that she did not do her job. That is her job. It should not have fallen on our superintendent and the superintendent of Hudson to do the leader of the 6th District Compact's job. And it's not acceptable to me, and it shouldn't be acceptable to our superintendents. And the extremely low enrollment that we have, when she was here and gave us a presentation, she just shrugged it off. She should be working every day to make sure we are opening up more opportunities for her students. That is her job. And I'm very disappointed in her leadership and our recent experience, because she should not be pushing her work onto our superintendent. She gets paid very well to do that job. So I just want to say that. I want to thank our superintendent for doing work that is not her work. But it's very disappointing, and that map is very disappointing. And there should be more opportunities for our students, but it's not our job. So I just had to say that. Mr. Harris?
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Yeah, I'm just going to highlight, and thank you, Dr. Selko, everyone who shared the what's happening around the district as it relates to Black History Month. I jotted down a couple things, so I'm just going to go through that list. The preschool art project. Preschool's doing an art project based on the story of Alma Thomas. DeWitt fourth graders are learning about Black mathematicians that will be posted in the hall. Preston's creating a Black History Month biography wall. Price, PE, and athletics are doing Black Athlete of the Week spotlights and themed fitness activities. Lincoln's Daily Black History Month, they're doing daily Black History Month announcements and fun facts shared across the school every morning. Richardson's fifth grade science classes are learning about African American astronauts and scientists. Silver Lake's kindergarten are completing the book What is a Hero, and learning about and are learning and writing about Black heroes, and then having a discussion about those characteristics of those heroes and how it line up with their own characteristics. And then Cuyahoga Falls Middle School 7th graders are researching and preparing presentations on lesser known Black Americans. And then Cuyahoga Falls High School, which is cool seeing this, Chemistry 2 students will be listening to a podcast with Dr. Lindsay McMillan Brown, who I went to school with. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, she was my friend in college, so I'm going to have to reach out to her. But she's an African-American research scientist and engineer at NASA in Cleveland. So just a lot of amazing things happening around the district as it relates to Black History Month. So I'm just glad to see
that's
that.
awesome.
Celebrating that Black ethic.
Maybe you could get her to zoom into the class.
Maybe.
I'm sure Mrs. Hausman could reach out to that teacher if you could make a connection.
I'll check with her on that.
That's awesome, Mr. Harris. That just goes to show that Black history is all around us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Brings us to item J, executive session. Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G1, is hereby moved that the board adjourn to executive session to consider the employment and compensation of a public employee or official.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Harris? Did he say? Oh, I didn't. Sorry. Mrs. Schaefer? Ms. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmerman?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye. We're in executive session at 8:07 PM. There'll be no action after.